why? Because Manny has the only operating car in town, and he intends to steal it. I can't blame him. He's got kids. Especially that screaming, screeching, horrible, whiny bitch of a kid, Rachel. Yeah, I'd want to protect her too. Now, remember, people are running through the streets screaming and being vaporized, etc. And somehow Manny is completely oblivious to this, even though it's occurring in the street right in front of him. He's working on cars, people are running by screaming, and they're being zapped. How is he not noticing all this pandemonium going on around him? Is he deaf or blind or something? How does he? Somebody screams down the road, even one person, I'm gonna take a look and to try to figure out why. And if I see multiple people running, I might start running too. I may not know why I'm running, but I'll do it. Okay. So anyway, he's oblivious to everything going on around him. And then Ray gets up there, with his kids, and he orders his children to get into the SUV, and then Manny notices it. So, he confronts Ray and he tells him to get out of the vehicle over and over and over again. Ray opens the passenger door and starts telling Manny to get in the vehicle with them or he's going to die. Okay? This doesn't faze Manny. If somebody looked at me that I knew and said, get in this car or you're going to die, I might stop bitching about how much work I have to do that day and stop and go, huh? What do you mean? Okay, but he doesn't. He's unfazed. It didn't sink into his head. It just went like boop right over his head that he was just told that his life was in danger, and proceeds to continue bitching about how much work he's got, and that's not his car. He can't take it. He's gonna get in trouble. Blah 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 blah. So anyway, so Ray leaves. He says screw it, shuts the door, and darts off in his SUV. And then what happens? Almost instantly, Manny's vaporized. We see it in the rear view mirror, and so there goes Manny. He should have listened, but he didn't. But ironically enough, the tripod didn't aim at the moving SUV. And if I were an alien bent on destruction and had just ashed somebody that was that close to the vehicle, that vehicle would have been next on my list. So anyway, so they make out. They get out, and the thing that, see, here's the snag in this particular part. Earlier we saw that all the roads were entirely blocked by all these cars of people that were like going to work, to the store, or to a friend's house, wherever. It doesn't matter where they were going to. There were a ton of cars, and when the EMP hit, they were all rendered, worthless. They couldn't work. They couldn't turn on. People had to abandon them. People are mulling about in the streets, wondering what in the hell just happened. So the roads are blocked end to end by all these cars. But the moment that Ray decides to pack his kids up into a working SUV, the road is magically cleared and he can get away. Did somebody come out and just like decide, hey, look at all these cars not working, let's push them off to the side? No. Nobody would do that. So how is it that, in one scene we see all these broken down cars, and in another scene, Ray and his two children are making a getaway on an empty road? Okay? So now that Ray and his children have made it safely out of the city, he decides it's best to take all the back roads to prevent being spotted by other people who might be interested and very capable of taking the SUV away from them, which is, in my opinion, I do agree with that move right there, because I would have done the same. Because first of all, trying to be on any major road is going to be impossible, because what did I just say? The roads are clogged with inoperable cars, so you're going to be driving on, the side lane, or in the grass, or in a ditch. What if there is no grass, and it's just a side lane and a ditch? What if people were trying to pull off the side lane? Whatever, it doesn't matter. Those roads are clogged, and they're filled with confused and pissed and frightened people. Okay, so yes, I would agree. Go through the back roads, because these people are scared and they want to get out. They want to go home, or they want to go somewhere safe, and they're probably going to take your damn car. Well, we finally figure out what is Ray's grand plan with him and his children. What is the plan? He's got a working car. Where is he going? To his ex's house. He's going to his ex-wife's house and her new husband's house, where the kids actually live, because apparently mom has custody of them. And he decides, let's go to my ex-wife's house. That's a great idea. But we already know in the beginning of the movie that when she dropped off the kids, she said she wasn't even going to be in town. She was going to be in Boston at her mother's house. So why is he wanting to go to her house? What makes her house seem like a good idea? Where in the movie did it occur to him, or was it made known to him that her house would have electricity, was not under attack, or any of those things? So why go to her house? Why not just say, you know what, I'm going to take my kids to Boston, where my ex-wife's mother lives, so we can all congregate together and figure out what to do? But no, he doesn't do that. He decides to go to his ex-wife's empty house. Okay, so anyhow, they make it there. The electricity's working, and it's on. The phone doesn't. I don't know. I can't really tell if the phone worked or not. I think it worked, but he just couldn't get through. But we see that it's nighttime outside, and the electricity's on. They're in the kitchen. The lights are on and what have you. And he takes the cardboard box of quote food, unquote, that he had Robbie, his son, pack from his fridge, and he starts bitching about how Robbie packed nothing but condiments. And Robbie then proceeds to tell him, "Fuck you, asshole! That's all you had in your fridge in the first place. That's why I packed them, because you didn't have any food." So he pulls out a jar of peanut butter and says, "Fine, we'll just have peanut butter sandwiches." And his daughter informs him, "I'm allergic to peanuts." And he says, "Since when?" And she says, "Birth." How do you not know or remember that your daughter is allergic to peanuts and has been since she was born? Did were you not in her life? Maybe you weren't. Maybe you weren't, Ray. Maybe Ray was not involved in his daughter's life when his ex-wife gave birth. Maybe they separated while she was pregnant with her. I don't know. But I would assume that after all this time of being, visiting with your children, you would know that your daughter is allergic to peanuts. But obviously he didn't. So he's a father failure right there. He just won the worst father in the world award as far as I'm concerned. And way to go, Dad. And so anyway, so he, in his frustration, he throws one up against the window and says, "Fine, me in the window will eat peanut butter," because Robbie didn't want one either. Now here's the kicker: you're bitching about having no food because you didn't have food in your fridge to pack in the first place. So the only thing that got packed was condiments. But you're in a house with working electricity. You're in a kitchen. I doubt very seriously that when his ex-wife and her husband decided to take a trip to Boston to see her mom, that they emptied the refrigerator of all the food. Asshole! Open the refrigerator and start taking actual food and putting it in the box. You have a refrigerator that I'm fairly certain is filled with good food. Put it in there. And then put it in the box. And then just, shove shit aside in the refrigerator and make room for the box so it stays fresh until you're ready to leave. Because I really hope that you're not planning on just dumping the kids at their mother's house and leaving them behind all by themselves unprotected. They don't say. We don't know. We don't know what his grand plan is after this point, okay? So anyway, so they spend the night. This is when the next morning an airplane falls out of the sky. No reason why. Maybe it was attacked or whatever. We don't know. Airplane falls out of the sky, lands right in the backyard, and this is when they meet up with the camera woman, etc., etc., etc. So. But anyway, so he although, okay, let's talk about the relationship situation here, okay? He plans to wait for the mother and the stepfather to come back to the house and take care of the kids. So he's made it abundantly clear that he does not want the responsibility of protecting his own children, okay? So when he, made it clear that, well, your mom's not here, she's in Boston, we're just going to wait for her to come back. Um, and, I've always known she was in Boston, so we're just going to wait here. And, even Robbie confronts him, later on in the movie. He's like, you didn't want to have anything to do with this anyway. We're a burden to you. And that's exactly how you come across, Ray. You come across as like your children are a burden to you. You just want to drop them off and wait for mom and the new husband to come by, let them take care of the kids, and just bolt and go on your merry way because they're not your problem. So once again, you win Shittiest Father of the Year award. Good job. Okay, and the thing is that you still don't even know if this neighborhood is a safe zone. You don't know if it's going to be under attack the next day. So why don't you simply sit there and say, we're going to either A, go to Boston and hook up with your mom and her family there, and let's all stick together, and that way we can help each other out, or B, wait for her to come back, which I'm pretty sure she's not going to do, because when shit fell down, and started falling apart, she was probably like, I'm staying right here. But if you're waiting for her to come back, and it's still, band together in a group, safety in numbers, et cetera, et cetera. But no, your plan is to just dump your kids off on them and just go. So that, that's not a plot line discrepancy. That was just something that really pissed me off, being a mother. So let us now start to discuss the manner in which people are killed by these aliens and the tripods. Okay, tripods come out of the ground and they start lumbering down the streets because they only have 3 legs, whatever, and they zap everyone in sight with their lasers and turning them into ash. We've seen that early in the movie. That was the first form of killing that we saw, that we were witness to. And the other way that people are killed, we see towards the end of the movie, the mid-end, by the aliens, is when the tripods decide to capture. They're now capturing live humans, and they're putting them in these cages that are attached to the underbelly of the tripods themselves. And one by one, there's like this long, organic looking, sucker tube. And one by one, they're sucked up into this fleshy like tube, and then they're ground up like hamburger meat. And then their flesh and blood is sprayed out over the ground. So, okay, you zap a shit ton of people, and then you take others and turn them into what we can only assume is fertilizer. And that is mentioned in the movie by, I can't remember what his name is right now, Harold or Heron. Anyway, some guy they meet up with later, he's the one that mentions that they're using humans, grinding them up and spraying them out as fertilizer. Okay, so we don't see, that yet. It isn't until Robbie's run off to fight against the aliens with the military, while Ray and Rachel meet up with, there it is, Harland. They meet up with Harland, who takes them in, under his wing for safety in an underground basement that he has. So again, we are told by Harlan that the aliens had planted their equipment long before man ever existed. This is like drilled into our head again and again and again in this movie, that they were here before us. So that goes back to one of my first points. So that night, a small alien crew is dispatched from a tripod and enters the basement to survey it. There's many near misses of discovery. Everyone almost accidentally gets discovered. There's a slight little between Harland and Ray, where Harland wanted to shoot the aliens, and Ray, was preventing him from doing it, and there was like looks at each other, but they didn't want to make noise. Anyway, so the next morning we see the aliens spraying the ground with a mist of human remains and blood, and additionally there are these blood-colored organic trundle like stalks everywhere, even coming through the window. Why the fuck they left the window open is beyond me. If I'm underground in a basement and I have a window and I'm scared and I'm hiding, I'd shut that motherfucker. So they're everywhere, and we don't know, and we're never told what these things are. Is it a food crop? Is it a plant? What is it? You know, we don't know this, and it just seemed to have grown literally overnight because it wasn't there the night before, but the next morning they're like everywhere. It was like they grew faster than a chia pet. Okay, so but you have no idea what they are or what they're for. The writers never tell you or even give you a hint. So you're just left there going, huh? What's that? And Ray even breaks off a piece, so, he, huh? So now we've seen the two methods that the aliens have utilizing to kill humans with: ashing them with death rays or sucking them up and grinding them down and spitting them back out. But yet there is, if you back up in the movie, when they do have the SUV, there is one scene where Rachel has to use the bathroom, so they pull off on the side of the road, and there's a stream there. So, he informs her to stay in sight, and she's like, no, I don't want you to look at me. So she goes closer to the edge of the stream where the bushes are and just stops and stares because there's dead bodies floating down the river. And I'm not talking like one or two, like maybe a couple decided that they didn't want to be captured, so they're going to commit suicide. No, it was the whole damn town. But we're never told why the aliens, killed them that way, so maybe like I could understand if it was like a house of people that the aliens had discovered when they were doing their nighttime routine, let's check shit out and killed them. But if that were the case, why did they feel it necessary to remove them from the home and put them in the stream? But that doesn't even work as an idea because there are far too many dead bodies floating down the river. I mean, it's like the whole town is dead and is floating down the river. So how were they killed? And why are they in the river to begin with? If you kill people, regardless of how you did it, just leave them. You just leave them there. I don't see the aliens sitting there going, you know what? We just killed this entire town. Shove them in the river. What do they care? Especially if they're like, oh, you know what? Dead body. Suck it up, grind it up, spit it out. So we don't even know and are never told how these people died and from what, whether it was from their own doing or, if it was from the aliens. So that was a little like off the the chart right there with a big WTF. And now later, okay, so now we're gonna continue on with them having the SUV. When Ray actually ends up on a clogged road, okay, because he's heading for the Hudson Ferry. The street is choked by a vast mob of people who become a violent group when they spot Ray driving. Now, of course, I'm assuming he's heading for the ferry because he wants to get over the river to get to his ex-wife's house. So he has no choice. He has to go that route. So anyway, so they're breaking the windows. They're attempting to crawl into the car. They become vastly outnumbered. He crashes into a pole to avoid hitting a woman who's holding a very small infant. And this is when Robbie in the back is forcibly pulled out of the back seat, while another man forcibly pulls Ray out of the driver's seat, and Rachel's left in the back freaking out. So Ray has a gun, and he fires it into the air, and everyone shuts up. No one wants to get shot. So the thing is that, I guess he was trying to like shut everyone up and be like, I'll kill you all and, leave my family alone. Do you really have that much ammo? That's a lot of people. That's a lot of ammo. Well, he didn't get a chance to do anything really because then another man was behind him with his own gun, and Ray stopped in his tracks because he didn't see him, but he heard the hammer click. So he knows there's a gun to his head, and he's told that, I'm taking the car. And, Ray's like, just, let me get my daughter. And the guy's like, fine, He tells him first, he says, put the gun down. And, Ray drops the gun on the floor. And that's when he proceeds to tell him, I'm taking the car. And, Ray was like, well, I just want my daughter. Give me my daughter. So he lets him get, Rachel out of the back seat, and he takes off with the car. Now, one, the guy who had the gun and was taking the car didn't bother to reach down and pick up the gun that Ray dropped. I would have, because I only have X amount of ammo for my gun, and that gun has another clip in it, so I might need that other gun and the ammo that's in it. Two, Ray never bent down and retrieved his gun because it was still sitting there, which is stupid because if I were Ray, that's immediately what I would have done, was retrieve my gun. But he doesn't. Three, some strange guy reaches down and picks up the gun. So that entire scene just made no sense whatsoever. So, like I said, a smart person would have, one, the guy with the gun, a smart person would have collected any additional weapons and ammo he could get his hands on in a situation like this, and he failed to do it. Ray failed to retrieve his own weapon to further protect him and his family, but yet some strange guy who just randomly is standing there is the one who picks up the gun. So there you have it. These are my thoughts on Tom Cruise's version of War of the Worlds. Some issues were based on plot holes. I really try to keep my reviews based on plot holes and discrepancies in the movies, but sometimes they're based on circumstances or presentations whose purposes were never explained, like in this one, for example. And a few of the topics I touched on were concerning unanswered questions, and some of them were just scenes or deliveries that left you, the viewer, bewildered due to inadequate information or entirely missing input. They just threw out a scene and said, we're not going to tell you about why, we're just going to put that scene out because it just looks cool. So just remember, I never said I hated this movie or any of the other movies I've covered, or any of the movies I'll be covering in the future. It's just that these are the inconsistencies that have jumped out at me over the course of getting to know the movie from watching it over and over and over again. So before I end this, I do want to say, remember the part where I discussed the aliens being too stupid to wear protective gear before gallivanting around a planet unprotected or performing adequate research on germs and microbes and such? Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure, you can remember Morgan Freeman in the end. Welcome to Earth, bitches. You got owned by our germs, you dumbasses. Oh, one more thing. Did you get a good look at those tripods? Did you? If you haven't, go back and watch the movie again, or just go to Google and Google the tripods and take a look at how flimsy their three legs are. Now, mechanically, they don't look very sound or actually capable of solid movement because the legs of the tripods look like spaghetti noodles, and they're just so flimsy, and they actually look curved and stuff, like they're collapsing under the weight of the bulk of the head. They're not straight and stiff like they should be if you were going to actually create a machine like that. So go Google it and take a look. Ciao.